Tolga Kumova led graphite-focused Syrah Resources. In the last decade, it now has a market cap of over 600 million. The company recently signed an offtake with Tesla. Now, Tolga is leading Aston Minerals and pursuing that other hot battery metal, nickel. Tolga, welcome to Kitco.
Thanks, Michael. Thank you, everyone, for listening.
Now, Tolga, Aston Minerals started off as a gold play. Maybe you can explain what is Mount Keith and how that led to a change in direction at Aston.
Yeah, so it started off as a gold play where we picked up about 300 square kilometres in Ontario, Canada. It was about 150 kilometres north of Sudbury, which has produced, I think, about 50% of the world's nickel for over 100 years. So we're in elephant country there. And also Timmins, as most people would know, is a large gold camp, and we're about 30 kilometres south of there. And we picked up this license specifically for gold originally. We were drilling for gold, and there's a nice looking gold project there. But as we're drilling, we're like seeing these sulfides and thinking, what's going on here? It's probably not gold bearing, but when we XRF the holes, we were picking up nickel. So we went away, did a little bit of homework, went into the Ontario, the mines department, looked at all the available public data, and a couple of holes had been drilled in the 1960s by a couple of Canadian groups, and we said it was kind of interesting as there was a hole there where the grade kicked up significantly from 0.2, 0.3 to 0.6, 0.7, and the hole ended in mineralization. This was drilled in 1959. So we're like, we really need to have a look at this. And we permitted a couple of holes. We've drilled, I think, about 8 holes into the nickel structure at the moment. The first hole came back with 287 meters at 0.3 nickel. Then we angled the rig a little to the south, and we hit, I think it was 53 meters at 0.49 plus the cobalt. But we haven't got the last 40 meters of that hole, but that hole also ends in mineralization. We then angled the rig another 5 degrees to the south, and we hit 163 meters at 0.52 nickel plus cobalt. And the last 18 meters of that was 0.66 nickel plus cobalt as well. So it's still in mineralization. We haven't been able to drill through it. It's a large, what seems like it's going to be a large nickel intrusive ore body, but it's very early days. We've only got a number of holes in there, but it's exciting times.
Now we understand it's early days. Let's just go back to that reference. So the Canadian geologist years ago that modeled it out, they said there was some similarities to Australia's Mount Keith.
Yeah, so Mount Keith has been operating for, I think, about 60 years. It's the leading asset for BHP's Nickel West. Right now, I think their resources are 230 million tonnes at 0.52 nickel. So it has very good similarities in terms of its grade and potentially its size. I mean, it's early days for us, but it is exciting. So, yeah, it's been one of the leading, Mount Keith has been one of the leading nickel producers in Australia for over 50 years.
Give us some basics on nickel, Tolga. What's a good grade and what type of rock do you want?
Yeah, well, it varies. It depends on what type of structure and what system we're in. We're in an intrusive ore body, so majority of BHP's assets are in intrusive structures. They're big, a few 100 million tonnes at somewhere between 0.5 and 0.6% nickel is a typical ore body for them. Then you've got high grade projects where you've got the 3 to 5 to 10 meter wide veins where they're mining 2-3% nickel. And this is not, we haven't discovered that yet. Not saying it's not there. But what we are targeting is the much larger scale sort of deposit that's in between that 0.5 to 0.7% range at the moment. And I mean, again, I'll qualify it. It's Mother Nature. It's geology. It's early days. But what we've seen so far is incredibly exciting.
Why is the nickel demand going to rise, Tolga?
Electric vehicles, batteries, lithium-ion batteries. It's I think it's about 60% of the weight of the lithium battery. So It varies. I mean, depending on what application you're using the battery for, it depends on the chemistry. But at this point, for electric vehicles, the Teslas, the new, General Motors, all the other cars that are coming out at the moment, they're using nickel-based, cobalt-based cathodes.
Now, battery metals companies have just been on fire in Australia, Tolga. You noticed that there was a bit of, how would you say, an arbitrage opportunity when you came to Canada and with the battery metal valuations?
Yeah, we're looking at a whole bunch of projects. And there's one I identified the other day, which has got me a little bit confused. It's called Patriot Metals. And they hit, I think it was like 150 meters at about 1% lithium in spodumene. Now, the company is trading at like a $20 million market cap, and we're kind of confused as to why. And if that same hole was drilled in Australia, the company would be probably worth a few hundred million. So it's kind of got us a little bit strange, but it is also an opportunity. And I've been buying the stock myself personally, and looking for opportunities like that in Canada.
And I think the story of the year was the two Australian companies duking it out over Syrah Resources. That would be Andrew Forrest of Fortescue fame, and also the large Australian miner. Now, we have a lot of retail investors that follow Kitco. Battery metals, you did mention Patriot. Battery metals just seem to be harder, though. You have that chemistry component when you're certainly talking about the different types of grades of lithium, never mind that you get into graphite. What would be your advice for somebody that wants to take a punt on battery metals?
Well, again, with industrial minerals, it is a lot about the chemistry of the actual ore body. It's every commodity has its different aspects, different issues. But in terms of getting into battery metals, I mean, I built the world's largest graphite mine, and I'll tell you that's not easy to build a graphite mine. So I'll give you a little bit of history there. From the time you actually, let's say, fund and build the operation, to actually get your product into the supply chain for an actual industrial, for a battery producer, the amount of time it takes to do the safety, the testing, the real life testing. So it takes a significant amount of capital to be invested to be able to put a product into a supply chain that's going to be effectively in a phone or under your, in your car. So it's just not as simple as what people think. However, once you are successful, when a company ticks all those boxes and it is in the supply chain, it's going to capture a large component of the upside that's coming and is already here, but is also, it's obviously going to expand from here in terms of the electric vehicles and the battery market. I
think that dovetails to what Ken Hoffman said at McKinsey, where he was talking about if you want to look at who is successful in the space or who is going to have some success, how closely are they working with their major suppliers to the battery metal space. I think this also dovetails on to the next question, and I think you've answered it there, Tolga. Car executives say that we just need more copper, we need more nickel, we need more graphite. We saw that with Tesla earnings that came out yesterday. We're just not going to be able to increase supply that quickly right now, because when you're doing these mines, they just take a long time.
Yeah. Building a new copper mine or a nickel mine or a cobalt project is just not that easy. I mean, it takes time, and clearly it takes a lot of capital. So investors also need to mitigate as much risk as possible when they're financing these projects. And I mean, each one of those commodities has its own supply demand issues and constraints. And, with the copper projects, the grades are dropping significantly around the world. Nickel projects, I don't know the last large scale nickel sulfide deposit was actually discovered that's actually got into operation. So again, with us at Aston, like finding a nickel sulfide deposit of scale is incredibly unique. Cobalt, same thing, it's got the same issues. And I went into graphite a little bit, and I'll go into a little bit more. We found a deposit in Mozambique, which is owned by Syrah Resources, and discovered that and funded it, and it's now built. I mean, that project is now in the supply chain. So it's gone through the headaches and the hurdles of all the real world testing. It's gone through those dramas. So what would typically happen is, instead of financing a new operation that has to go through those hoops, it's easier just to apply the capital to that one project and expand it. So there's all these different aspects of actually bringing these projects into production and getting them into the supply chain.
Let's finish back with Aston, Tolga. You've had those initial drill results that you've put in. What are the next 12 months going to look like?
Next 12 months, I'm thinking about the next 2 weeks, to be honest with you, Michael. So we drilled that hole, which was 163 meters at 0.52 plus the cobalt. And the highest grade zone is the last 18 meters of it. So it's kicking up in grade. What we're doing is we're taking a step to the south of that hole, about 150 meters. We're going to do what you would call a down dip hole. The actual mag structure, the magnetic feature, the intrusive feature that we're drilling into maps the mineralogy almost perfectly to date. We're going to drill a hole that down that structure. That structure looks like it goes 1,500 meters. And like I said, it's take as a grain of salt. Mother Nature, geology, anything can happen. But we're drilling a hole down the structure to just see how deep this ore body goes. So again, early days, but that's starting hopefully this weekend or the next couple of days.
What's it like getting drillers and getting drill results right now?
It's been such a drama. It's been very difficult over the last 18 months, but our drilling companies, we've got a couple of drill rigs on site, and we've got a great relationship with them. The assay labs, we've actually gone through 3 different assay labs over the last year. And we found one that we actually have a relationship with now, that we're comfortable that we're getting results over a 4-week period or thereabouts. So we're quite comfortable with that now. But with this nickel sulfide, we can actually see the sulfides in the core. We're drilling diamond core, so we'll know pretty quickly what we're into.
Tolga, thanks for speaking with Kitco.
Thanks, Michael. Appreciate it.
He's Tolga Kumova. He is Executive Chairman of Aston Minerals. My name is Michael McRae, and you're watching Kitco Mining.